Greetings, mighty companions, and welcome back to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Anna Rebecca Quinn. Thanks for joining this broadcast today. I'm so happy that you're here, and I hope that you find this to be helpful. We are going to be studying and reading from A Course in Miracles, which is what I'm teaching from. And Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum in healing one's mind, that one might have a happy, whole life and experience. So A Course in Miracles is for healing the mind with the recognition that all problems begin in the mind and are healed in the mind, and then they extend out as miracles of abundance and peace into your life. We're talking about A Course in Miracles. Our goal here is to hear what A Course in Miracles is saying and to learn how to apply the principles in A Course in Miracles. And let me tell you, it is not called A Course in Miracles for nothing. It's called A Course in Miracles for a very good reason. This is a curriculum in how to experience miracles, good things that seem to break the laws of space and time for you and others, from changing your mind about yourself. So this is about how to have miracles of peace and abundance become as natural and easy and right as breathing is to the body. This is a course in how to experience miracles. Okay. Is there any area of your life right now where you could really use a miracle of peace or a miracle of abundance or a miracle of joy or a miracle of love? Well, you've come to the right place. So, where we are going to be studying today is in chapter 3. And if you have the blue covered edition, it's chapter 3, section 7. And the title is called Creating versus Self-Image. And if you have A Course in Miracles, the original edition, in whatever form you have that in, purple cover, black cover, sparkly cover, it is in chapter 3, section 11, and it is titled The Unshakable Foundation. And you can see that listed right here, and that's where we're going to be. And I welcome your comments, especially if they're comments asking for clarification on what it is that we're hearing in the section today. So, all right, well, let us begin. We're in chapter 3, either section 7 or section 11, depending on which version you are in. Okay, so let's see here. Let me go to that section myself. All right. If you're reading in the blue covered edition, just know that the first few sentences of this are not in the edited version. So the first few sentences of this were in the original dictation and were not taken out. So it begins by saying, and the title is The Unshakable Foundation. It says, it is essential that this whole authority problem that we talked about in the last few sections, it is essential that this authority problem be voluntarily dismissed once and for all. Why? Because you don't understand how important dismissing your authority problem really is for your sanity. Because on the point of authorship, who authored you, you are quite insane on this point as to who authored you. And this is a problem which must be voluntarily dismissed, because we don't understand how important correcting the authority problem is for our sanity because we are quite insane on this point of who authored us. And the thought that we are quite insane on this point of who authored us says that's not a judgment, that is merely a fact. All right. That is the first paragraph, and it's letting us know in paragraph 1, it is continuing from the last couple of sections where it's talking about the authority problem. And in those 2 sections, it's referring to that our problem is that we have an authority problem, meaning we are misinterpreting. We believe that we have authored ourselves. And we use judgment as a weapon of that false authority. And that's our problem. When the truth is that we were created by God. We were authored by God. And so on the point of who we are completely mistaken. And as long as we believe that we are our own author, then we are going to suffer, because apparently our will for ourselves is suffering and lack and fear. If our authorship is up to us, then look at the world you see, and that is the result. You did not create yourself. And the Course in Miracles tells us that our belief that we did create ourselves has deprived us of our relationship with our Creator, who created us as love and only love. Right? So it's going to talk more about this authority problem that we have and how crucial it is that this problem be corrected. It's so crucial that we understand and accept that we did not create ourselves. Okay? Of course, as if you did create yourself, then you have every reason to be afraid and anxious, for sure. If you did not create yourself and God, which is love, created you, then you have every reason to feel safe and happy and hopeful. All right. Oh, no volume. Thank you, Greg. Settings. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. No volume. All right. You guys let me know. Okay. Hello. Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? Volume is good now. Wonderful. Excellent. Hi, Stephanie. Lovely to see you. Hi, Mary. Lovely to see you too. Hi, Greg. All right. Got some mighty, mighty companions in the house. Okay, guys. So you've got where we're at on the screen here. Beautiful. All right. Here we go. Feel free to ask questions. And all right. Okay, guys. So where we're at, if you have the blue covered edition, thank you. If you have a blue covered edition, it's chapter 3, section 7, and the name of the section is called Creating versus the Self-Image. If you are in the original edition, it's called the Unshakable Foundation. So we're going to be talking about today how to experience having an unshakable foundation in your mind, how to have an unshakable foundation of peace in your mind. Imagine how that might feel to have a foundation within your own mind and your own being that's unshakable, that's unflappable. Imagine that, where you're not worried about what people think of you. You're not concerned of the changing circumstances that come and go and change, appear here, disappear there. This is how to understand and accept the truth about yourself so fully, so strongly, that you are not shaken off of your foundation by something in the world. Okay. I would like to experience that. That seems to me like that would be the ultimate self-confidence and the ultimate unshakable peace of mind. How would you like to have some peace of mind that was unshakable? Well, I would, and that's why I study A Course in Miracles. Okay, here we go. So it says, every system of thought must have a starting point. Everybody's thought system begins with either a making or a creating, a difference which we have already covered. So everybody has within them a thought system. Everybody has developed a thought system. And everybody's thought system begins either with a truth, the truth about themselves, or a lie about themselves. Everybody has made a thought system for themselves. Everybody operates from that thought system, and they operate from that thought system, that belief system, as if that thought system is the truth. But everybody's thought system, everybody's belief system begins with either the truth about who they really are as created by love, as love forever, or their belief system begins and starts with something that is not true about them. Everybody's belief system begins with who and what they think they are. And either they think that what they are is love, or what they think they are is sinful, guilty, afraid. All right. And it says, and both belief systems, whether the one based on truth or the one based on lies, both of those thought systems are an act of will, except that making involves doing while creating involves active willing. The resemblance of everybody's thought system, whether they're based on a truth or a lie, their resemblance lies in their power as foundations. So everybody's belief system is their foundation. It's where they come from. It's where all their thoughts and all their experiences start from. Your belief system, their belief system, is your foundation. It's where you start from. And your thought system either starts from a lie, that you are separate, guilty, alone, unworthy of love, or your belief system begins with the truth. You were created by God, not yourself, and you were created as love, by love forever, and you are guiltless now and forever. Now, both of these thought systems, both of these opposite belief systems, the resemblance they have lies in their power as mental foundations. So both belief systems, whether they're true, based on truth or based on a lie, the thing they have in common is their power. The power of somebody's belief system for them is true, whether your belief system starts with a lie or your belief system starts with the truth. Now, if you learned when you were a child that you were guilty, that you were bad, that you were wrong, that you were separate, that you were just a body, then your belief system is going to be starting with a lie. But just because your belief system begins with a lie, and so everything in your belief system that started with a lie isn't true, that doesn't mean that your beliefs don't have power for you. Just because your beliefs might not be true, just because people's beliefs might not be based on truth, does not mean that their beliefs don't have great power on them, over them, or for them. Just because something's not true, just because somebody's beliefs aren't true, doesn't mean they don't have great, great, great power for them and on them. Okay? He says, now the difference between these two thought systems, one thought system is based on you are only love, and one belief system is based on you are separate, you're guilty, and you're going to die. Now, the difference in these two thought systems lies in what rests upon these foundations, these belief systems. But both belief systems are cornerstones of systems for belief by which you live. Your belief system is the cornerstone of belief by which you live. So, what's the cornerstone by which we live? What is the foundation within our minds that determines how we live? It is our belief system. Our belief systems are our foundations. It's where we start. It's the cornerstone by which we live. Everything in our experience, everything in our lives comes from our mental foundation of what we believe. Now, there's only two starting points for every system of belief, and it's either love or fear. I am either love or I am guilty. Okay, so only two different foundations, but what follows on these two different belief systems is completely opposite, two completely opposite worlds. And it's a lie, it's a mistake to believe that a thought system based on lies is weak. So, just because somebody's belief system is based on something that's not true, like they're guilty or they're separate or they're bad or they're unloving or unlovable, just because someone's belief system is based on something that isn't true does not mean that their belief system is weak. Just because what you may believe about yourself isn't true doesn't mean that your belief system is weak, right? Whatever you believe has great power to you, for you, on you, over you, even if it's not true. So it's a mistake to believe that a thought system based on something that isn't true is weak. It is not weak. You know why? Because nothing made by a child of God is without power. So whether somebody believes something that isn't true doesn't mean it's weak. It has tremendous power over them, because nothing that a child of God makes is without power. Whatever you believe has power for you and over you. And it's crucial that you understand that about other people, that whatever somebody believes is true for them, that belief is going to have tremendous power for them. So, and it is absolutely essential that you realize this, because otherwise you will not understand why you have so much trouble with this course. and you will be unable to escape from the prison you have made for yourself. All right. Hi, Irene. Lovely to see you. Mary says, I always felt unworthy, and so I did not allow myself peace and love and prosperity. But with Anna's help and studying the course, my life is getting better and better, and I'm recognizing who I am. Beautiful. Mary, you are accepting a new and true belief system. I hear you saying that the belief system that you used to have as your foundation for your beliefs about yourself and life, it was a belief system based on untruths, that you were unworthy of love. And you experienced that belief that you were unworthy as very powerful for you. That belief that you learned seemed to have a lot of power over you, and had produced not peace, love, and joy and abundance. So now, through the Course in Miracles, you have accepted a different foundation of belief. That's what A Course in Miracles is providing for us. Here's another foundation of belief that is true, because its starting point is you are only love, you are guiltless and sinless now and forever. And so everything that comes from this new belief system that you have found and are adopting is producing a new life with prosperity, peace, and joy and love. Your life is coming from what you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself is either true or it's not. It's either loving or it is not. And the life that you experience and the world that you experience is coming from your belief system about what you are. That's your foundation. That's your foundation from and by which you live. Okay. And even if it's not true, if you believe it, it is going to seem real, and it is going to seem to have a tremendous amount of power over you. Yes. Mary says, struggle and addiction was me back then. Right. That's one of the things. Those are a couple of the things that come from a belief system that isn't true, a belief system whose foundation isn't true. Most of us have belief systems with foundations that are not true. We have an entire belief system that we believe in whose starting point isn't even true. Imagine developing an entire belief system that you live by, and it was never true to begin with. So, wow. All right. And as I was saying, that's what A Course in Miracles is. It's offering us a complete belief system whose foundation is the truth, the loving, abundant, eternal, guiltless truth about ourselves. And as we accept this new and true and loving belief system, letting it replace the old belief system that we learned from people who did not know the loving truth about themselves, now we are living by a totally different belief system that produces a totally different world. And where you had struggle and addiction and pain and lack and loss in the past from your old belief system, now you are experiencing a life and a world and relationships that are constantly witnessing to you, mirroring to you how loving and how lovable and worthy of all good that you really are. And it all comes from your foundation, which is your belief system. What do you believe about yourself? Are you going to continue to believe what you learned about yourself in the past, even though it has not made you happy, healthy, or wealthy? Or are you going to choose to accept a whole new belief system based on the fact that you are only love and that you deserve only love, and have a life that reflects that, a life where everywhere you go, people are happy to see you, a life in a world that mirrors that you are only love and that you deserve only love. And it's our choice. That's our choice. But that's how a real and fundamental, foundational change occurs. Would you like to experience a real and substantial change in your world, in your life, in your experience? A fundamental change, a change that actually lasts, is a change that is made at the foundational level that you exist on, and that is your belief system, what you believe about yourself. And everybody has developed a belief system, and everybody's belief system is either based on the truth about them or the untruth about them. And everybody's belief system is about what they think they are as either love or guilty, okay? Loving or sinful. Light Upon Light says, past struggles has been replaced by God's grace. Every need is met even before I've asked. Yes, that is the natural results of a belief system whose starting point is the truth about you as established by your author. Okay, exactly. Where now miracles, loving, abundant, joyous miracles are as natural and as right as breathing is to the body. That is what naturally results from a belief system based on the truth about you as established by God, which is only love. Okay. Beautiful. That's wonderful. Okay, guys. So then it says, it says, it says, right. It says, you have made the error of the psychotherapist that we described in some detail before. Yet you cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating the power of your mind. Your mind can hurt you if you misuse your mind. Okay. He says you can't resolve the problem of believing false things about yourself by depreciating the power of your mind. He says your mind can hurt you if you misuse your mind. Why? Because you know your mind's strength. So your mind can only hurt you if you're misusing your mind to believe in something that is untrue or unloving about yourself. Because your mind has power. And so whatever your mind believes is going to have power over you. So if you believe something that's untrue or unloving about yourself, then your mind can hurt you. It's only our beliefs that hurt us. And it's only when our beliefs about ourselves are unloving or untrue, same thing, that our beliefs and our minds can hurt us. It says, and you also know that you cannot weaken your mind any more than you can weaken God. Whatever you believe is going to seem very, very powerful for you, over you. Why? Because you cannot weaken your mind. Nothing that a child of God believes is weak. Nothing a child of God believes is without power. So if you believe something, it's going to have power over you. And when you stop wanting to be imprisoned by that thing where it seems to have more power over you, that comes from not believing in it anymore, withdrawing your belief. If you want to withdraw the power that problem seems to have over you, that means withdrawing your belief that that thing, that idea is true. Okay. Thank you, Light Upon Light. Thank you so much for that very generous, uh, I forget what they're called. Thank you for that very generous donation, Light Upon Light super chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Now we're in paragraph, I think for you guys is 3. Let me take some water. Now, it says, the devil is a frightening concept only because the devil is thought of as extremely powerful, and the devil is thought of as extremely active. The devil is a concept, the devil is a thought, and it is a thought that is frightening only because the devil is a concept that is thought of as extremely powerful and extremely active. So that's interesting. It says the devil is a concept, the devil is a belief, and the devil is a frightening belief and concept only because it is seen as extremely powerful and extremely active. And the devil is perceived as a force in combat with God, battling God for the possession of souls. And the devil, which is a belief, which is a concept, the devil deceives by lies, and the devil builds kingdoms of its own in which everything is in direct opposition to God. So, what is the devil? The devil is a concept. The devil is a belief that there is a force that is in combat with God, and the devil is a belief that there's a force battling and opposite to God that is battling God for possession of souls. That's what the devil is. It's a concept or a belief that there's a force or a power that's opposite to God that is fighting God for possession of souls. Now, it says, and even though the devil is a concept or a belief that there's a force that's opposite to love and battling love with some kind of power over love, yet the devil attracts men rather than repels them, even though the devil seems to be a force in opposition to God, battling God for possession of souls. And even though this force seems to be opposite to love, opposite to God, this concept, this belief called the devil, seems to attract people instead of to repel people. And so people are willing to, quote, sell their souls to the devil in return for gifts that they know are of no real worth at all. Now, being willing to quote sell your soul to the devil for gifts that have no real value at all, that makes absolutely no sense. Why would you be willing to quote sell your soul to a force that is opposing love, that's opposing God, for nothing of any real value? Why would people do that? Right? That makes absolutely no sense why people would be willing to quote sell their souls to something that is the opposite, that seems to be battling against love. And the whole picture is one in which you act in a way you yourself realize is self-destructive, but which you don't will to correct. And so you therefore perceive the cause as beyond your control. So the whole picture of the devil battling against God to possess your soul, and you're willing to let the devil, the anti-love force, possess your soul for nothing of real value. Really, all that's going on is that you are being self-destructive. That's your will to self-destruct. But you don't think that it is within your own control to stop, to correct. All right. Now it says in paragraph 5, you are frozen, but we can hear you. Okay. All right. Thank you for letting me know, Mary. All right. Just listen to my voice. Yes, I do see that I'm frozen. And what a face I'm frozen on. Oh my goodness. Very funny. Okay. Okay, great. Then it says, we have discussed the fall or separation before. So we're going to talk now about the fall, the separation, the detour into fear, the supposed expulsion from the Garden of Eden. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that experience where we seem to fall from grace. Let's see here. Let's try that. Let's try this. Oh, guys. Okay, now you can't see me at all. All right, let me go back here. And we're going to go here. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. No. Wonder what's oh, there we are. Okay. Now I'm not frozen on that weird face. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the fall, the detour into fear, the separation. All right. There you are. Okay. Stephanie, good. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks, guys, for letting me know what I need to know, guys. I really appreciate your collaboration on this co-creation here. I really appreciate it. Okay. All right. Now we're talking about paragraph, which I think for you is paragraph 4. It says, we have discussed the fall or separation before, but its meaning must be clearly understood without symbols. The separation is not symbolic. The separation is an order of reality or a system of thought. The separation, the detour into fear, what is it? It's not a reality, it's just a system of thought. That's what it is. So when we're talking about the ego, we're talking about something that is not real. It's just something that is a thought, it's a belief. Okay. All right. Now I think that we're on Facebook. So it says the separation is just a system of thought which is perfectly real in time, though not in eternity. And that's because all beliefs are real to the believer. So the separation, the fall from grace, the expulsion from the Garden of Eden, that's something that seems very real and true in time, but in reality, but in eternity, it's not real at all. We never did separate from God. We never did fall from grace. We never were expelled from the Garden of Eden, from heaven. That never occurred. It's just a belief. It's just a belief that we somehow were kicked out of the garden. It's just a belief that we somehow fell from grace. That's a story. It's a concept. It's a belief system. It's an order of thought, a system of thought that never was true. But because we believe in it, and whatever we believe has power for us, now it does seem as if we have experienced a fall from grace, even though it never really occurred. How about that? The detour into fear, the fall from grace, the separation from God, the expulsion from the Garden of Eden, it never occurred. That was just a belief. And then a whole belief system was based on it. And it never was true. It still is not true. We have not fallen from grace. We have not separated from our source. We have not made a detour into fear. We were never expelled from the Garden of Eden, which is a state of mind of no need and no lack. Wow. But because we believed that occurred, because we believed that we were kicked out of heaven and that we fell from grace, now it seems very real. It sure seems like we are not in the garden of plenty, right? But it seems real only because what we believe, all beliefs are real to the believer. So don't make the mistake of believing that just because that's what appears real to you, just because you believe something to be true, don't make the mistake of thinking that that means it's true. Because remember, you did not create yourself. You are not the author of reality. So reality, your reality isn't up to you to establish. And if it was, then you'd be doomed. Because our belief that reality is ours to establish, look at what we have produced. Us believing that what's real and true about us and everything is up to us to decide. Look what we have decided. At some point, we're going to look around and go, I sure hope that I am not the author of reality. I sure hope that I'm not my own author. Because look at what it is I believe about myself and reality. I surely hope I'm wrong on that. All right. Beautiful. Then Jerry says, we walk by faith and not by sight. Exactly. Now, then it says, the fruit of only one tree in the Garden of Eden, the fruit of only one tree was, quote, forbidden to man in the symbolic garden. So, what is the garden? Is a symbol of the pre-separation condition in which there was no need and there was no lack. Where we all started was the pre-separation condition in which there was no separation between us and source. And so there was no lack and there was no need. That is what the garden is the symbol of. The garden is the symbol for the reality of our oneness with our source, from which we came, from which we were created in and by, in which there is no lack, there is no need, there is no death. And that's our starting point. We didn't create ourselves. God created ourselves. God is our starting point. God is our foundation. But we believed that we could separate ourselves from our foundation in God. God is our source. God is our starting point. We believed that not only that we left that or separated, we believe we were kicked out of that just because we wanted knowledge. So we believe that for our desire to be like God, to be one with God, that God kicked us out of God. Now, that belief, when you really look at it, is ridiculous, completely ridiculous. That's just us projecting onto God what we do to other people. I am kicking you out of my love. You're no more. You've disappointed me. I am kicking you out of my love. Bloop. Okay. That's not how God is. That's how we are. And so, but even though it's ridiculous to think that God would have kicked us out of God, who is only love and who only loves us, who only created us as only love, no matter how ridiculous it is, what you believe is real to you, because we believe in it. Now it's a belief that seems to have great power over us. And now we feel separate. And now we feel alone. And now we feel on our own. And now we believe that we're unworthy of love. And since we believe we're unworthy of love, now we believe that lack and need are real and have power over us, when it never was true at all. And it's not true now. And the way that we take our power back from the lack and the need and the loss and the death and the separateness and the aloneness that seem to have such great power over us is by learning that what we are experiencing, if it's not loving and abundant, is not true. It's not reality. And we withdraw our belief from it. And then we invest our belief in now what is true, which is only that which is loving and abundant and eternal. And now we have a different experience of life and ourselves. Now we have a different experience of the world as only loving and abundant and safe and joyous, where death is not real. All right. Beautiful. Yes. All right. Then it says, so the fruit of only one tree was, quote, forbidden to man in the symbolic garden. But God could not have forbidden this only one fruit. or this one fruit could not have been eaten. So if God forbid a fruit from being eaten, you couldn't eat it, right? And because if God knows God's children, and I assure you God does know God's children, then would God have put God's children in a position where their own destruction was possible? Would you do that? Did you do that for your children, loving your children? Did you put your children in a position where their own destruction was possible? No. And God did not do that either. God, knowing and loving God's children, would God put God's children in a position where their destruction was possible? Would God make a fruit that was forbidden, that if they ate, that they would be destroyed? And would God put that fruit on that tree in the garden with God's children? Does that sound loving? No. If God forbid something, it couldn't have been eaten. So this whole story that God put something, that this story where God would put God's children in a position where their own destruction was possible is ludicrous. Okay? That's just the story. That's just the belief that we have developed and believed in and given it great power over us. So now, as ludicrous and ridiculous and untrue and false lie that it is, that God is like that, we have given this belief that God is angry with us, that God would put us in a position where our own destruction was possible. And now we've given this idea, this lie, great power over us. Now we're afraid of God. Now we feel guilty. Now we feel ashamed. Okay. Now it says the tree which was forbidden was correctly named, quote, the tree of knowledge. Yet God created knowledge, and God gave knowledge freely to all of God's creations. So the idea that God wanted to keep knowledge all for himself, and any of God's children who wanted God's knowledge, God would be offended and punish them and kick them out of heaven, that's just a story that came from a lie, that we are separate and that we are guilty and separate from God. Okay. Now, the symbolism here is open to many interpretations, but you may be sure that any interpretation which perceives either God or God's creations as if they were capable of destroying their own purpose is wrong. Wow, right. So any interpretation that perceives God or God's creations as if they were capable of destroying their own purpose is wrong. So the story where God would put something in our midst that if we took would destroy us, that is just a story. It's just a false belief that never was true. It's definitely not loving. And it's not true because it's not loving. The story of the Garden of Eden is the story of the separation. It's a symbolic story. It's a symbolic story for how it's a symbolic story that we have made up to explain how it is that we got in this mess. And in this story, it's God who is given this unloving, destructive purpose. In this story, it's God who tempted God's children. And then when God's children chose wrongly, then God punished God's children. Does that seem loving? Does that God in that story seem loving? Or does that God in that story seem psychopathic? Right? It's just a concept. It's just a story that we have believed, that it's a story where we projected our own desire to separate from God, and we projected it onto God and said, God kicked us out because we dared to want some of God's knowledge. And God is so possessive of his knowledge, like us, that God kicked us out when we were tempted by what he put right in front of us. You know, we all know that when a parent goes, see this thing right here, little Johnny? Don't touch it. What's the first thing that little Johnny wants to do, right? So, but we're hearing the symbolic story of our separation from God as we tell the story, right? The truth is the truth about the separation or the fall is not that we were kicked out because we dared want some of God's knowledge. God is the author of knowledge, and God offers knowledge to all of God's creations freely. God is not like, this knowledge is for me and not for you. God is the author of knowledge, and God gives everything that God has created to all of God's creations freely. God is not withholding knowledge. So the story of the separation, our story is that God kicked us out because we dared want something of God, of God's knowledge. That's not what really happened at all. Okay? Thank God, because if that story was true, then God is a psychopathic, unloving parent. Okay. Now, it says, right, it says that any interpretation of this story which perceives either God or God's creations as if they were capable of destroying their own purpose is wrong. All right, clearing up that little old story that has been a foundational story in our belief system, right? Our belief systems, whether you believe it, whether you realize it or not, they are based on the belief that we are guilty, and that because of our guilt, God kicked us out of God. Okay. And that story, the story of how we got separated from our source, is a foundational belief in our thought system, which now tells the story of how we are guilty, we're unworthy of love, and we deserve punishment from that which supposedly loves us. All right. And that is a belief system based on a lie. It's not true that God is angry with us, that we displeased God, that we tried to take the knowledge that's only God's, and God was angry, and so God rejected us from heaven, from the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Plenty. Okay? That is a lie that we have now built an entire belief system on, and now we have an entire world that seems to punish us for our guilt, that seems to witness to that we're not worthy of all the goodness and all the abundance that our Creator has given to us freely. Okay, so we're talking about that our belief systems are the foundation of our experience, determining everything we experience. And here we're hearing that one of the cores of that core belief system is this belief that we were rejected from heaven, that we were rejected by love because of our guilt. And now we are worthy only of the punishment of being in a world full of lack and pain. All right. Now, then it says, eating of the tree of knowledge is a symbolic expression for incorporating into the self the ability for self-creation. That's what it really is. Eating of the tree of knowledge is just a symbolic expression for wanting to usurp the ability for self-creation. It's a symbol for wanting to be God. Wanting to eat of the tree of knowledge is a symbol for really what really happened was I decided that I wanted to usurp the throne of God. I wanted to be God. The ego is like, I want to be God. Okay. That is what the symbol of eating of the tree of knowledge is symbolic of. It wasn't like God says, like, here's the tree of knowledge. It's all for me. Don't touch it, even though it looks delicious. Knowing that, of course, we're going to be like, oh, now I want it, right? That's not what happened. What happened was we decided, the child of God, the creation of God, long time ago, decided that it wanted to be God. And that's what the ego is. That is what the devil is. That is what the fearful mind, the ignorant mind within us is. It is our desire to be God, to create ourselves. I am the author of reality. I decide. I know what everything means. I decide what everything means. I am the author of reality. Okay? That is what eating of the tree of knowledge is symbolic of, wanting to be God. That is where my separation from heaven, where my seeming separation, my seeming rejection from heaven really came from. It didn't come from God. It came from me wanting to be God and kicking God off the throne. And the Course in Miracles tells us in the previous section that every time we are judging another, we are assuming, we are acting like we are the author of reality. Every time we judge, we are expressing our desire to be God, to kick God off God's throne and be God, to be the author of reality. That's what judgment really is. Every time we are judging another, we are assuming the right to attack their reality by interpreting their reality as we see fit, as if we were God, as if we created them, as if we created ourselves, as if we are the author of reality, as if we are God. And that's why the Course in Miracles says that the result of judgment is always guilt. Because the Course asks you, how could you possibly, have the purpose of kicking God off the throne, usurping God's power, and not feel like God would be angry? Now, God's not angry. God's not offended. But if that's your purpose unconsciously, you can't help but think that God is angry and is going to kick you out of good. All right. So that's why I said, we were saying earlier that our one problem is the authority problem, right? If you insist on being the author of reality through the weapon of judgment, then you can't help but also believe another lie, which is that God is offended and that God wants his throne back. That's why you can't judge and not feel guilty and not feel worthy of punishment, even though none of that is true. And even though you don't deserve punishment, because you can't kick God off the throne, You can't usurp God's power. You can't change somebody's reality just because you want to have it so, even though it's totally impossible. You believe that you've done that because that's your purpose, and you're going to feel and believe also the lie that you now deserve punishment. Wow. Yeah, so this is a curriculum, truly, this is a curriculum in how to relinquish judgment, how to allow the belief that you are the author of reality to be corrected so that you can accept your true authorship and stop acting destructively. Every time you act like God, every time you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge and act like you know and judge like you know and judge others and yourself as if you are there and your author, you are acting destructively. Exactly. Because truly, if you are letting God be the author of reality, if you are letting God be your one true author, then you would experience only peace and love and joy and abundance and safety and eternal life. Because that's all God wants for you. Right? It's only us that believes that we deserve something else besides love. That's one of the beliefs in our belief system that's a lie that we are believing in and making it seem true and giving it great power over us. But it's not true. God is the one who has established our reality. God is our only author, and God's will is only love. God's will is that whatever God is and whatever God has, God gives freely to all of God's creations. God is not like, this is mine and that is yours. And if you try to take some of what's mine, I will punish you and kick you out of the Garden of Heaven. Okay. God's will is only that all that God is and all that God has, God gives freely to all of creations. That's why there is no lack. That's why the concept of lack and need is a lie, an illusion, a projection. It's not true. God has given God's creation everything. That's why lack isn't real. There's no lack in the universe. There's no lack in reality. You only experience lack when you believe in lack, and you only believe in lack when you believe that you have taken from God, which is what you believe when that's what you are trying to do. Every time you judge someone or yourself, that's what you do. You're trying to take authority from God and give it to yourself. And you can't do that without a sense of a belief that God is now angry, even though God isn't bothered at all. God knows you can't do that. God's not bothered God's not offended by that. But you are believing a lie and giving it power over you when you do that. That's why the most important thing, that's why the first sentence of this section was, we've got to allow the authority problem to be corrected. Because as long as that authority problem remains uncorrected in your mind, you are going to believe in lack, and you are going to believe that you have taken, and you are going to believe that you don't deserve the abundance, the unlimited abundance that God offers freely to all of God's creations. All right. Now, then it says, yes, so eating of the tree of knowledge is a symbolic expression for your ability of yourself for self-creation. So Eating of the tree of knowledge is symbolic of your desire to author yourself, the belief that you've created yourself. Now, this is the only sense in which God and us are not co-creators. The only sense in which God and us are not co-creators is that God created us and we didn't create ourselves. Aside from that, we are co-creators with God. We are one with God. The only thing that is different between us is that God is our author and we are the creation. God is the creator and we are the creation. We didn't create God and we didn't create ourselves. Okay. Now it says the belief that us and God are not co-creators is implicit in the self concept, which is a concept now made acceptable by its weakness and explained by a tendency of the self to make an image of itself. So eating of the tree of knowledge is a symbol for the tendency of the ego to make an image of itself. I will make up my own image. I am my own author. What I am is up to me to decide. The tendency of the ego to make an image of itself. Of course, it says you're not of your own making. You know, what you are is not up to you to make. Thank God. Because notice, as you think that you create your own reality, that you can make up an image of yourself, look what it has produced. Look what you've made yourself to be: unloving, unlovable, weak, guilty, lacking, needy, separate, alone, lonely, etc., etc., etc. Right? All of our suffering has come from a belief that what I am is up to me to decide, that I am an image of my own making. But when I realize I did not create myself, then you will accept yourself as you were authored by your creator, and you will experience the way you were truly authored, which means the way you truly are, and you will experience yourself as only loving, only lovable, only worthy of love, never lacking, never in need, never alone, never on your own, and never dying. That's how you will experience yourself when you remember and accept that you are not your author, that you were created by God. Right? And that's how God created you to be. It's like God created us as whole and complete, lacking nothing. God created us as only love and deserving only love and eternal forever. But we didn't want that. We were like, no, I'll make up myself as I want myself to be, and I want myself to be guilty. I want myself to be sinful. I want myself to be separate. I want myself to be just a body that's going to die. And I want myself to be afraid of everything. That's what I want. See how smart I am? Okay. That's what we came up with when we incorporated into ourself the ability for self-creation. All right. Beautiful. Thank you, Sydney. Sydney says she needed this one. Beautiful. Me too. Me too. I really love hearing that whenever I'm upset or suffering or unhappy or believing in the power of the fear and the lack, and believing in the power it has over me. Oh, this problem has so much power, more power than I do. This problem has so much power over me, and that's why it's frightening. When I remember that all of that suffering is coming from me believing that what I am is up to me to decide, that I can create my own reality. You know, that is that's so helpful, because now once I remember that, I can go, okay, well, then what is the truth about me, God? Once I'm not trying to be God and establish my own reality as I see fit, now I can ask God, my author, my source, the true authority on me. As long as I'm trying to be the true authority on me and making myself miserable, now I can turn to the true authority on me and say, God, you're the one who created me. What am I? And now you can hear from your source the truth about you as only love, only deserving love. You can hear the truth about yourself as the child of an ultimately infinitely wealthy spirit parent God who has given you everything. Who knew? Who knew I was, the child of this unlimited wealthy parent? Who knew that I had such an inheritance coming to me just because of who I am? Who knew? Now, I can accept that anytime, anywhere. I could say, I did not create myself. God is my author and my creator. And so I now accept my inheritance as a child of God. You say God has freely given all that God has and is to all of God's creations. All right. Well, if that's the case, then I know who I am, and I accept my inheritance as a child of God. And now I can experience all of that which my Creator has given to me, all the love, all the power, all the eternal life, all the joy, all the peace forever, no conditions. But I can only accept my inheritance as a child of God when I stop trying to be God and decide what I am, even though what I'm deciding is obviously lacking and unloving. Okay. I can't turn to God and ask God's truth about me if I'm trying to be God and judge everyone and everything as I think they should be, according to my mood, my changing mood in the moment. All right. I love it. Mary says, thanks, Anna. Do you know how I can join with God for my son's safety? I worry sometimes about both my boys. Yes, Mary. Remember what this is saying about you. Remember for your boys. So remember for them that they did not create themselves. Your boys did not create themselves. And that God created them. And so God has given to your boys freely all that God has, and that your boys can accept their inheritance as children of God anytime, anywhere, and nothing can take from them their worthiness of all the love and all the abundance and eternal life that their Creator, their author, is offering them now and forever. And so that's the thing you want to remember for them. That's the best way to join with love for your son's safety. Remember the truth for them. They are still as God created them. They remain exactly as God created them. And they remain eternally worthy of all of God's love and abundance and eternal life. And God is offering that to them, and they have that. And it's waiting for them. And also the other truth is that nobody can run away from their source and what their source is offering them forever. It's just a belief to think that you can be separate from God. It's just a belief based on a lie that you or anyone else can be separate from love, which means unworthy of love, forgotten about by love. It's only a belief that you can leave God. It's only a belief that God would somehow kick you out of the abundance that is God. It's only a belief, and it's not true. And so, the best way to save ourselves and each other from the effects of believing this lie is to stop believing it for ourselves. Stop believing that lie that you can be kicked out of love and love's abundance because you made a mistake. I mean, that's the story of the Garden of Eden. The children of God, Adam and Eve, made a mistake. They ate from the tree of knowledge, and because of their mistake, now they deserve to be, wanderers in lack and alone, homeless forever, right? So, the best way to protect yourself and others from the lies of the ego, the lies of the devil, is to stop believing in them and start investing your belief in the loving and abundant and eternal truth that your creator has created for you. And of course, in Miracles is one of the vehicles by which you can access the loving truth, the loving reality that God, as author of reality, has established. There's many other forms of the universal course. The Course in Miracles is just one form of one form of the curriculum where we realize, oh, I didn't create myself. I don't want to keep trying to create myself because look at what I'm doing for myself. And I want to accept my true authorship and stop trying to be the author of my own and everybody else's reality. God, what's the reality you've established? Of Course in Miracles is reminding us on every page about the reality that our true author has established and given to us and guaranteed for us. The Course in Miracles is a thought system based on the truth about who we are, from which only comes the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Okay? So we've got our thought system that we learned in the past from people who didn't know the truth about themselves, that produces all this guilt and unworthiness and lack and death and suffering and loneliness, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the belief system based on the truth about who we are that we find in A Course in Miracles. Okay? And A Course in Miracles is just one expression of that. So the Course in Miracles is how I have allowed my old belief system from my past to be replaced. And so now I have a life that I never would have dreamed possible back when I had the belief system that I was given that was based on a lie that produced a lot of lack and a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of loneliness. Okay. So thank you, Course in Miracles, for this thought system, this belief system that is based on only the truth about us, that produces only God's world, the real world. Okay. All right. How are we doing on time? Let's see. Okay. We're getting close to the end of class. Let's see here. All right. Let's see where I want to go here. So it's a very, very long section. Okay. Why don't we go to the paragraph I think it's in the blue book. It looks like it'd be the paragraph 8, and in the original edition it'd be paragraph 9. So we're going to skip forward a little bit, and it says the mind can make the belief in the separation from God. The mind can make the belief that we've been rejected by God, rejected by love, rejected by abundance, rejected by safety. Our mind can make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. Okay. And this belief in the separation, this belief that we were rejected by God, that we have made very real and very fearful, this belief is the devil. That belief that we were rejected by God for making a mistake, this belief that we could be destroyed for making a mistake, that belief is the devil. The belief that God, our source, our author, rejected us because we made an error. That is the devil, that belief. What's the devil? A belief that we were and can be rejected by God for making a mistake. And now, because of that mistake, that we deserve our destruction and that we deserve lack and punishment. That belief is the devil. And it says, and this belief that we call the devil or we call the ego, we see it as powerful, active, destructive, and clearly in opposition to God, because this belief that we call the ego or the devil, it literally denies God's authorship. That's what it does. That's what the ego is. That's what the devil is. Both the ego and the devil are like, God's not your author. You are. Right. That is the devil. You know, what does the devil say? What does the ego say? God is dead. You created yourself, which means you're on your own. That's what the devil is. It's the belief that you have been rejected by God and you are your own source. You're your only protection. And that, God doesn't know you. Right? That is the ego. That is the devil. And never underestimate the power of this denial. Denial of what? The ego and the devil's denial of God's authorship. That's what the devil and the ego are up to. They're like, God isn't your author. God isn't your creator. You are. So the ego and the devil are literally denying God's authorship. That's what the ego's up to. That's what the devil's about. It's like, forget about God. You're God, right? But never underestimate the power of the ego's denial of God's true authorship on you, of you. Now, how do you do that? How do you don't underestimate the power of the ego's denial of God's authorship of you? How do you do that? Here's how you do it. Look at your life and see what the ego has made in your life, of your life. Look at your life and see what this belief that God has abandoned you has made. Look at your life and see what this belief that you're on your own has made in your life. But as you look and see what this belief that you're on your own and it's up to you to establish your reality, realize that this belief will surely dissolve in the light of truth, because the foundation of this belief, the foundation of the ego, the foundation of the devil is a lie. Your creation by God is the only foundation which cannot be shaken. Your creation by God, that God is your only true author, not you, not the devil, not the ego, that God is your author. That is the only foundation which cannot be shaken. Do you want to stand? Do you want to be standing on a foundation that cannot be shaken? Then accept that God is your author, that you did not create yourself, and that God created you. The acceptance of this truth is the only foundation that cannot be shaken. I want a foundation, I want a state of mind that can't be shaken by this or that or this or that and all these things that are changing every day. I want to experience a state of mind that cannot be shaken by anything that the ego and the devil is doing to try to tell me that I'm alone and on my own, and that lack and weakness is real for me. If you are on your own, if you have been rejected by God and you are on your own and you are the author of your reality, you have every reason to feel terrified by your weakness. But acceptance of the fact that you did not create yourself and that you were created by God, which means that everything that God has and is yours for free. That provides a foundation in your own mind, a foundation which cannot be shaken. Because it's a foundation that the light is in. Your starting point is truth. Your starting point is God, not you. And you must return to your starting point. God is your starting point, and you must return back to God. No one can separate themselves from their source. What does it say about that? No thought can leave the mind of its thinker, which means you can't leave the mind of God. You can't. You can believe that you have left God, and you can believe that it was God who rejected you and kicked you out because you made a mistake, but you can't make it true, and you actually can't leave God. You can't run away from home forever because God did not will that it be so. And so you must eventually return back to your starting point, which is God, your true author. Now, since you tried to leave home, since you tried to leave God, yes, much has been perceived since then, but nothing else has happened. And that is why your spirit is still in peace, even though your mind is in conflict. Since that belief took hold that you separated from God, that God rejected you and kicked you out of eternal abundance, since that time, much has been perceived, but nothing has happened. All you did was make up a belief that was never true and believe in that and give it power over you and suffer the consequences of the belief that it's true, but that's all that it was, just a belief, which means that nothing real really happened, because you can't leave God. God has not kicked you out of eternal abundance of God's love. You can't leave home. You can't separate from your source. You can't separate from your author just because you thought it had happened. And every time you judge, you give more power to the belief that you have been rejected by love, and you will experience the effects of your belief, and they will seem to have great power. And every time you forgive, you are remembering that you didn't create yourself. You remember that you haven't been rejected by love and love's eternal abundance. And you remember that you never really left the eternal abundance of God that is your home. That's what you remember every time you forgive. Just like every time you judge as if you are the author of reality, you will experience the belief in the rejection as real, and you will give it power over you, and you will suffer lack and condemnation as a result of your belief. So, but the answer is to remember that you did not create yourself. And since you did not create yourself, you are still one with your creator. You still remain in the home of your creator's loving and eternal abundance. And you can't be separate from that. You can't leave that. You can't be without the eternal loving abundance of your creator, of your source. And every time you say, I did not create myself, I remain as God created me, you experience the truth of that. And you experience yourself as not separate, not alone, not rejected by love, not mortal, not guilty. You experience yourself as living forever in the abundant love of your source, God. You experience the real world. All right, that's what I want. Now, that's an unshakable foundation. And that's what we're going for. When you know the truth about yourself, you can't be shaken. When you know the truth about yourself as created by love, as love, only love forever, only deserving love. When you believe that about yourself, when your belief system is based on that truth, then you can't be shaken by anything the ego or the devil comes up with. You can't be shaken because you can't be deceived now by the ego, by the devil telling you that for your mistake, you deserve destruction and rejection. You'd be like, what? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't sound like God. Okay. The truth that you were created by God, which means, and that you never were rejected by God, which means you still exist within God's eternal loving abundance. That gives you a belief system that is a foundation that cannot be shaken by any lies that the devil may tempt you with, that would make you sad or afraid or broke or sick. All right, you guys. Well, that It's a long section, so go ahead and finish it. It's beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And I so appreciate that you used your very precious time and energy to join this healing circle. I truly do. And I really appreciate your comments um, uh, and your questions. Light upon light says, yes, spirit am I, a holy child of God, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to save the world. Exactly. Thank you, Mary. I so hope that this has been helpful. These ideas make for a belief system that is based on the truth, that provides for you a foundation that cannot be shaken by lies that the ego or the devil will try to tempt you with. So I appreciate you all so much. If you would like to make a contribution to support my miracle ministry, then the way to do that is to go to my new website, divinerevolutionarq.com, and you'll see a donate button there. And also, I have a new blog there on my website where I've been posting my some of my writings, and so go check those out. They're helpful reminders. And I think today, I'm not sure if it went up today, but the latest blog that I have posted was titled "My So-Called Free-Floating Anxiety." So it's the truth that Spirit was telling me today as I brought to Spirit my so-called free-floating anxiety, the truth that the Spirit gave me about it, and the immense relief and joy and abundance that resulted from my accepting the truth in place of my own lies, my own self-concepts. So, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and do an integration meditation like I do typically at the end of my sessions. And the purpose of the integration meditation is to take the ideas that we heard and to use them. And that's what we want to do. The Course says this is a practical course. And the Course in Miracles says that these ideas, as beautiful and gorgeous and mighty as they are, that you'll never know they're true until you use them, even though you don't believe them. You need these ideas and you need to use them and apply them because you don't believe them. And it's only in the using and the application of these ideas, despite your unbelief, that will prove to you that these ideas are true. So don't put the pressure on yourself to believe these ideas when you don't. Just use them, whatever your resistance is, and you will get the results. And the results of the use and the application of these ideas is miracles. And what's a miracle? It's something that it's a good that transcends the laws of space and time and brings good to both the giver and the receiver. That's what miracles are. It's good that comes to you. It's an answer to a prayer that seems to break all the laws of space and time. That's what a miracle is. And this is a Course in Miracles. When you use these ideas, it produces miracles, miracles of joy and abundance and peace and love that seems to break all the laws of the world. And you are entitled to miracles. You are. God, who knows you and loves you, has freely given everything that God has and is to you for free, forever. And so the only thing that's keeping you from experiencing this reality of total loving eternal abundance that's been given you is your beliefs that you learned that were never true. that tell you that you don't deserve only love, that tell you that you've been rejected by love and you don't deserve only love. Okay. That's the only thing keeping you from experiencing the wholly satisfying, wholly supportive nature of the reality that God has authored for you. All right, beautiful. So now I want you to close your eyes and take a breath. I'm going to turn the music up a little bit. If you're not driving a car, close your eyes. I just want you to notice how you feel right now. And just breathe. Just notice how you feel having heard these ideas. Even if you don't understand them, even if you don't believe them, how does it feel to hear these ideas aside from the difficulty in believing them sometimes? Even if I don't believe that I deserve only love, I'd much rather that be true. I really would. All right, so take a breath. Now I want you to bring to your mind a situation or a relationship right now where it doesn't seem like abundance and love and joy and peace are real. And bring that situation or relationship to your awareness. See it in your mind's eye. And I want you to tell yourself, this is something that the ego or the devil has made in my life. What I'm looking at here and experiencing, this problem, this thing that seems to have so much power over me and it's so frightening to me. This situation or thing which seems so threatening to me because it seems to have power over me, that I'm frightened of, that hurts. It's frightening. I want you to tell yourself, this is what the devil has made in my life. This is what the ego has made in my life. I made this. I want you to tell yourself, this problem, this upset, is the result of me wanting to be God with my judgments. This problem is coming from my belief that I created myself, that I am God, and that I establish my own reality. This suffering is coming from me thinking that I got to do it by myself and that I'm by myself, that I'm alone and on my own. And still looking at this problem, I want you to tell yourself, this is a manifestation of a belief in my mind that is based on a lie. Because the truth only produces love, joy, and abundance for everyone. What I'm looking at is not the truth. I'm just looking at a belief in my mind that is not true. I'm looking at the effects of a belief system that's based on a lie of separation, a lie of rejection by love, a belief in guilt. Tell yourself about this problem. This problem is a manifestation of my belief that I have been rejected by God, by love, for making a mistake. because love never punishes mistakes. Love only offers loving correction for the lies that I believed. And I want you to tell yourself, just because I have believed in this problem and the lie that it represents, just because this problem seems to have such power over me, does not mean that it is true or real. Just because I believe in this problem and it seems real and frightening and more powerful than me, does not mean that it is real or true. And I want you to tell yourself, what I have believed about myself that makes me unhappy is a lie. Only the love is true about me. Only God's love for me is true and real about me. And now that we have realized that it's not God who has condemned us to this, now let us turn to God as the true author of us. And now let us ask God, God, you are my true author. You are the one who created me and established my reality as you would have it be. What is my reality? What did you create me to be? Is it true that I'm guilty and alone and unworthy and on my own? Is it true that this lack in my life seems real? Is it true that I don't deserve love just because I made a mistake? Is it true that I deserve punishment because I made a mistake? God, what do you know is true about me? What's my reality as you created it, God? You know me, you love me, you created me. What's my reality, God? And then listen and see if you can feel God's love streaming upon you and into your mind, filling your mind with the light of love that is life, that is you, that is reality, that is God. You are as God created you. You are not a limited body. You are free, for you remain exactly as God created you. For a moment, practice believing the truth about you as a creation of God, which is a creation of love and eternal life. And then notice how that feels. How does it feel to be turning to the true authority on you and asking for the truth about you? How does that feel as opposed to believing the lies that you learned about yourself that made you feel alone and on your own and frightened and guilty and ashamed. Notice the contrast. I'm so glad that I did not create myself. I'm so glad that God is my author and not me. God, thy will be done. Thank you. All right, you guys. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And when you're ready, open your eyes, take a breath. Beautiful practicing, guys. Thank you for being here. This may be one of those classes you need to listen to a few times. Definitely read this section. This section is just chock full of powerful truths that, if you were you to apply them, do indeed produce miracles. This belief system right here is the only belief system that makes for a foundation within you that cannot be shaken by the lies of the devil, the ego deceiver. I love you. I appreciate you more than I can say. And I will see you next time I see you.